And what's next? Mr. Derek Lott.
Thanks so much, Peter, and to the rest of the Contest Mastery team for having me out. It is a privilege. We are here because of someone who's not here. Sherry, I met at the World Championship under some odd circumstances. She was having a conversation with someone, and we kind of backed into each other. And next thing you know, we kind of hit it off. Those of you who know Sherry, she's got a pretty big personality, and I just thought she was the greatest. And so we talked a little bit after the World Championship of Public Speaking, and so we kept in touch, and here I am today. So it is indeed an honor to share with you what I've learned. Now, tonight's content is caffeinated. You do not need any coffee at all. You will be wide awake at the end of my conversation. You will be starting on your next speech. You will be writing the VPE with your next speaking role. I am so confident that what you're going to receive tonight, pen, paper at the ready, for what's going to happen over the next 45 minutes, I believe is game changing for speakers, especially for speakers of your caliber. We're going to talk about the secret sauce. We're going to talk about some things that I received an epiphany, a revelation at 6 minutes and 30 seconds when I was on the final stage that told me I had missed some opportunities, to which I said to that revelatory voice, couldn't you have told me 2 weeks ago? But needless to say, I have that to share with you tonight, and I have many more treats in store for you and a big surprise as we wrap up the conversation. I also see my coach, Linda Sarkis, and Lisa Askew may join here this evening as well, but they were extremely important in this campaign this year, and they're important to all speakers. So if you don't have a coach, don't think you need a coach, let's get that taken care of now. You do. And we'll talk about reasons why in a little bit. But with that said, my Toastmasters journey, I've been in Toastmasters about 10 years. I wasn't looking to be in Toastmasters. A couple of friends that were up to no good invited me. I resisted. They persisted. I pulled back. They doubled down. And so finally, I acquiesced just to get them off my back. When I came to the meeting, I learned a few things and I came back, and I kept coming back because I kept learning a little something new about this thing we call public speaking. Then finally, I joined, and those two friends that were up to no good quit. I marched up to the president of the club. I said, what do I need to do to get out of this thing called Toastmasters? Because I don't quit things. And they said, distinguished Toastmaster is the goal. I said, well, I'm in. And I joined, and I have been in ever since. So once I completed my DTM in about 3.5 years, which I owe a lot to Linda, who helped me get that last hurdle HPL project and some of the mentoring and coaching needed. Those were the things that I focused on in the early days. But then I got introduced to contests. And that's where the journey really began for me. And I really started settling in to my journey in Toastmasters with all with both feet in, so to speak. You've heard of toe tipping. I call it toe tipping. When you test the waters, you want to get in the pool and you put your little toe in and like, ooh, it's cold. It's ooh. Well, when I got into contests, I dove in head first, and it was brutally cold, and it is now starting to warm up for me. I'm starting to get the hang of this thing. So I will say the most important thing is I want to cut to the video, which is going to just pivot us into getting right into the meat and potatoes of the conversation. I had never been a personal stories person. When I joined Toastmasters 2015, I was telling third party stories, stories that I made up. They were great stories too. Some of those stories took me to district. And I felt like I could get by with that. But a funny thing happened in 2019. I had told the story, Courage at the Gate was the name of the speech. And it was a made up story about a boy, Thomas Nickleby, who had a social disorder. And I had studied this stuff. So I made up this character and I made up all these scenes, and it was very provocative. And I was disqualified one year for going over time for breaking a rule. We'll talk about that later. But the next year, I brought the speech back and came in second at the club level. No, at the area level. I came in second at area. And I was still headed to division because they took first and second. And I said to my coach, Linda, who wasn't my coach at the time, I just had worked with her as she was a division director at the time, and I was one of her area directors. I said, I need to tell personal stories. So that was 5 years later. I need to tell personal stories. I have no way of winning without venturing into telling personal stories. And that was the first year I told what was then overalls and thermal underwear. And I gave a version of that, which was a softer version because I wasn't comfortable being authentic and what I like to call transparent. So I had a lighter version of it. Do I see a hand raised? Is that a hand raised or?
That's just for the timer.
Okay, no problem. So anyway, that speech went to district, and it was the first year that they had the video quarterfinals. I did not move forward. So I took that speech. I went to the international conference that year to see the rest of the competition. And I felt, you know what? I belong here. I can do this. It gave me the confidence. And then we went into COVID. We were shut down for a few years. I didn't compete again until 2024 when a club asked me to compete. And I competed with my Toastmasters story. I didn't really develop anything. I said, you know what? It's time for me to tell my Toastmasters story. I took that to district only to get squashed like a bug. I did come in second place for humorous. 2025, I make up my mind. I'm competing. I'm in it to win it. I'm going all in, pulling out the stops. So I have 2 district championships at that point. I have a Table Topics win 2017. I have a international speech in 2019. So I say to myself, I'm going for the Toastmasters Slam. What's the Toastmasters Slam, Derek? That's winning all 4 contests at the district level at some point in your career. So winning Table Topics, international evaluation, and humorous. So I was going to enter the humorous and evaluation, try to complete the Toastmasters Slam. Well, I said to myself, hey, you know what? I'm going to get in all 4. I got in at all 4, 1 at the club level. Got in all 4 at the area, 1 area. Got in all 4 at the division, 1 division. Got in all 4 at district. 1 on Friday night. I won the humorous contest. Saturday morning, I win the evaluation contest. Saturday night, I win the international. I'm headed to the quarterfinals. Sunday morning, everybody's in the room to see if I'm sweeping district this year, and I come in second. So, but needless to say, an incredible year for me. And then to receive the note back from the chief judge, I remember Jeanette called me. She said, I don't know, Derek, I don't see it. I'm not, they're filling up the board. I'm not seeing your name. I don't know. And then I get the follow-up call. It's there. Your name's there. You're in. You're going to the semifinals. And so I am going to leave it there because I'm going to show you the speech that took me to the semifinals. But then we're going to pivot because I want to talk about all the things that I've learned that will help you make it to the final stage. And with that, I'm going to share my screen. Share sound. Share. Okay, hopefully You can see, okay?
We do.
All right. All right, we're going to see. Let me know if you've got sound.
Derek Lott.
You hear?
Forward
We do.
march.
Got it.
Thank you, contest chair.
You're welcome.
Forward march! That was Mr. Eames, an intense and scary band director. I was trying out for the high school marching band, and I should have stayed home. My trumpet playing was horrible. When I played, the dogs howled, and the neighbors wore earplugs. 100 hopeful teenagers sat around Mr. Eames, waiting to hear who made the band. Suddenly, the trumpet section leader blasted and pointed at me. Mr. Eames, that kid's trumpet playing is the worst I've ever heard. I want to snap my fingers and disappear. Ever felt that way? Why the trumpet? It was anonymously sent, but I would learn it was from my biological father. He was absent in my life, and I hoped that if I played well enough, he'd stop being my birth father and start being my dad. Contest chair, Toastmasters and guests, alarmingly, all around the world, over 100 million children are fatherless. And I was one of them. Illegitimate. I was just a kid. Back in that band room, I grew anxious. My escape was 100 feet away. I packed my trumpet. I lunged forward, hurling myself at that door. And then I tripped. Fell flat on the floor. 100 teenagers burst into a raging laughter. Did you see that? What a loser. Dismissed. I cried. Mr. Eames helped me to my feet. Lott, do you know why I belt out forward march? You should call it forward faceplant. Wise guy, no matter what happens on the field or in life, forward march. What happens next is up to you. Now, do you want to join this marching band? You mean I have a chance? Well, hold on, Sean, not so fast. One day at a time. That night, I shared with Mom what had happened, and she took my round cheeks and pulled me close. What is true today doesn't have to be true tomorrow. I believe you'll make that marching band. Do you think my dad will come see me play? Maybe, but if not, I'll always be there. Do you want to hear me play now? Hon, I gotta get back to dinner. But I'll be listening. As she turned away, I saw her put in earplugs. I couldn't blame her. My trumpet playing was that bad. After 15 minutes of practicing, ding dong, my friends, when I opened the door, oof, I was tackled. D. Lott, we're going to play kickball. I have to practice. Give it up already. You got the dogs howling and the whole neighborhood wearing earplugs. You're no Louis Armstrong. Ha ha. I want my dad to come see me play. We're calling him Dad now. You have us. Listen, D-Lot, I'm all for the marching thing. But don't do it for him. Do it for you. What happens next was up to me. Could I? Forward march. I picked up my trumpet and thought, boy, I love kickball. And I love my friends. Without another thought, I was out the door. What? You expected an instant transformation? It would be several days later, I saw a boy playing catch with his dad, and my heart twisted. In that moment, my desire for a dad moved from my head to my heart, and it hurt. Despite Mr. Eames, my mom, and my friends, I still wanted a dad. I needed a dad. After that, I didn't open the door for my friends. And after a few months of diligently practicing, I no longer needed earplugs. Forward, march! As we began to play, the melodious notes that resonated from the bell of my horn silenced the trumpet section leader, silenced my critics, silenced my doubts. I had made the high school marching band. A few years later, I graduated lettering and music. I stood at graduation, diploma in hand. My friends were cheering. My grandma was beaming. And my mom, she was crying. Tears of joy. Foolishly, I looked for the man I wished would call me his son. He wasn't there. Mr. Eames was there. Lott, congratulations. What's next? Friends, what's next for you? We all have a story. We may not share the same circumstances, but we share the same humanity. We can succumb to our struggles or rise to the occasion. I wasted so much time focused on what I didn't have when I was marching forward all along, overcoming the stigma of being fatherless with love from my mom, support from Mr. Eames, and encouragement from my knucklehead friends. I would never know my father. Do you know who knows their dad? Kayla, Caitlin, and David, my kids. Out of the ashes of my heartbreak, they are my greatest joy. And when they need me, believe me, I'm there. When I answered Mr. Eames' question, what's next? I squared my shoulders. I matched his gaze. I thought about that fatherless kid and said, no, proclaim, forward, march. Contest chair.
All right. All right. Well, hopefully you got a chance to absorb that. And that is where I want to begin with what's next. When I left the finals and I sat down in my seat after the finals, no matter what the results were, I knew what was coming next. And that was to share with people like the beautiful people I'm with tonight and people all over Toastmasters, these secrets that I'm about to give you a taste of tonight. What happened, I hope you can see it, A Speaker's Journey to the World Stage. This is a book I wrote in 30 days following the finals. To the date, the finals were August 23rd. I finished this book and had my first proof in hand September 23rd. And then I had to get Toastmasters approval and a lot of other things, but it is now available for pre-sale. That's what was next for me. As Sabyasachi and Mas and Alan were whisked away to continue their journey as champions, I began writing. So as you think about what you saw in Forward March is a textbook speech to be studied and to be analyzed for future world-class champions. The first thing I'm going to give you is the blueprint that we all may be familiar with in some shape or fashion. Kevin Stamper, the 2017 third place finisher from District 48, my district, did a keynote in this same year, and I happened to be there. And what he said was, your story should follow this: a likable character with a noble want, who overcomes challenges and obstacles with the assistance of a guide to achieve success. A likable character with a noble want who overcomes challenges and obstacles with the assistance of a guide to achieve success. So we may have heard that in some form, the hero's journey. Your guide might be Mr. Miyagi or Yoda. We've all heard that. But that needs to be stood up against a structure, which is one I've developed myself, called the big idea methodology. So when I craft a speech, my speech will have a big idea, and I'll reference Forward March because we just watched it. The big idea is being fatherless, but being able to overcome the odds and the stigma of being fatherless to achieve success. That was the big idea. Off of that big idea, there must be scenes that walk through the big idea, the life of the big idea. And those scenes must have magical moments. That is critical. The scenes that you build to articulate your story that support a big idea must have magical moments. People must laugh. They must be, let's just say they must have their emotions moved. Right? You don't necessarily have to make them cry, but their emotions, they should be, as you see me in that speech, that is a personal story. And as I talk through certain scenes, I become emotional. And it is not fake. It's just being in that scene again makes me feel those emotions. And the third, thought provocation. There should be some deep thinking. What's true today doesn't have to be true tomorrow. So we got a big idea. We have the scenes that support those big ideas. They should be filled with magical moments. Each scene, if you have a scene that doesn't have any moments of magic in them, you can cut it. If you're just trying to transition to something else, you don't need it. The scene must have magic in it, memorable things that people will recall. And all of that should be, crafted into a message that has themes that can be repeated. Forward march. What's next for you? These are themes that when you remember that speech, you remember those thematic messages that stay with you and live on. If you were at the finals, you will remember that Mash he said, raindrops, right? Be the first to be kind, and then people will follow. And it was memorable. That is what I mean by a thematic theme and messages that are in there. And they must end with a call to action. Now, that big idea methodology has to be flanked by very good storytelling. So master the art of storytelling, specifically suspense, drama, surprise. You want to develop the ability to create that. And when I say suspense, we all know the scene where someone is pulled out of the water and they're not breathing and they're beating on their chest. And they're like listening for a heartbeat, and you don't know if they're going to come back, and everybody's getting all anxious and nervous. And then finally they cough up the water and they start breathing. And everybody releases. Oh, she's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. That's suspense. You want to create that. In my story, I said it this way. It was anonymously sent. Interest, intrigue, drama, suspense. I would learn it was from my biological father. So it doesn't have to be this long thing, but it's a suspenseful moment. Also, the other side is your technique. Your ability to articulate your ideas with good vocabulary, strong vocabulary. Doesn't have to wow people where they need a dictionary to follow your words, but you should be substituting common words with interesting words that people know and readily have. And they go, well, here we go. Forward march. As we began, to play the melodious notes. I never forget when I first got evaluations or received valuations, excuse me, on that speech, what I heard over and over. Oh, I love that word, melodious. They would just keep saying that. I hadn't thought much about it, but it was a word that was pleasing to their ear and was interesting. So don't try to wow them with a word they're going to need a dictionary for, but words that will make them go, ooh, I like that. Also, obviously, your vocal variety, you want it, your gestures, and all of those things that you saw in Forward March. There's a lot of interesting moments in that speech where gestures and vocal variety come into play. So that is my big idea methodology. When you take the blueprint, the storytelling blueprint, lay that methodology, there's only one thing left, and what I call the X factors. And there are two of them. The first one, in the storytelling blueprint, a likable character with a noble want who overcomes challenges and obstacles with the assistance of a guide to achieve success, strike out success. Draw a line through it. I want you to replace it with victory. Success is a trophy. Success is a thing, a diploma, something that people look at and they give you hand claps for. Victory sometimes is that person with glossophobia that walks on stage to do a table topic for the very first time, knees knocking, they can barely stand up straight, and they get 10 seconds of words out and they go back to their seat. For them, that was victory. How many times in your life have you had something that for most folks, they'd be like, yeah, that's no big deal. But for you, it was everything. Your audience will feel that. I had made the high school marching band. Did you hear the applause? They applauded. I didn't expect that, but they cheered and they applauded. Hey, that's victory. They felt it. They felt what I had felt after all I had went through, trying to win the affection of my father, playing horribly, right? Trying to get the neighborhood to take the earplugs out, right? That whole thing. They celebrated with me. Now, victory must be underscored and sustained. Victory must be underscored and sustained. Well, what do you mean by that, Derek? I had made the high school marching band, victory. A few years later, I lettered in music, underscored. At graduation, I had my diploma. That is sustained. My friends cheering, my grandma beaming, and my mom was crying tears of joy. That is victory, underscored and sustained. The other X factor is presence. And I have to give it to our world champion winner, Sabyasachi Sengupta. From a presence perspective, he had the audience in his hands and never let him go. From the very first moment, he's kneeling on the ground, pretending to kiss the floor, and then he stands up. Oh, I was talking to the stage. To the joke about finance people wearing spreadsheets to bed, you name it. It was just wonderfully written and crafted. And it wasn't a deep conversation. It was about him wanting to be a Bollywood actor. And so it doesn't have to be these deep and heavy subject matters to win audiences. But presence trumps precision. Presence trumps polish. I have always been a technician on the stage, from a staging, vocal varieties, gestures, and all of that. But I learned on that world stage, presence trumps it all. Your ability to engage and have that presence with your audience means everything. So that is my storytelling storytelling and my big idea and my X factor keys. If you build your speeches and test against that, you will find yourself at higher levels of performance. How do I know? Because it's the reason I didn't do as well as I could have in the finals. My final speech missed on 2 of the 3 things that we talked about. So that's a little bit about the secret sauce and so forth. But I want to give Linda and Lisa 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll go into some questions, and then I'll close. Linda, take it away.
Thank you, Derek. I'm known for saying, live the story. What does that mean? I watched Derek's semifinal visit speech with some of my cousins the other day, and I said, did you hear the emotion? Did you see the emotion? That's what I mean by living the story. Take us back there as if you were going to see a movie. We don't go to see a movie for someone to tell us the story. Take us into the story, and that's what Derek did. Real laughter, real conversations. Make it authentic. To me, very early on, I started to see when Derek was with his friends, his knucklehead friends. I can't quite do that movement that he did. He became one of his knuckle friends. We all had knuckle friends, at least I did. And so that was a joy to see. We worked on rehearsals. We timed every rehearsal. Where were you at 5 minutes? It was such a joy to be doing this as a team. And we did some things that I don't think Derek or anyone could have done alone. We saw things that he didn't see, either through the audience, his movement. It just became very, very strong. And we gave him feedback. It was just a wonderful team to work with. Make no mistakes, we didn't always agree, which was great. But we all honored our roles in the team, and I can't just say enough about the experience. So thank you, Derek. Thank you. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Linda. Lisa.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you all for having us. It's a pleasure to be here in the spirit of contest mastery. I also have gone to the semifinals in 2018. I'm a District 84 International Speech Champion, so I have lots of respect for all of you and your craft. As Derek mentioned, I got an opportunity to be a part of the team with himself and Linda. And one of the things that I really pride myself on as a speaker is presence, right? I'm sure all of you have hosted something at some point in your life. And as a host, you want to make sure that your audience feels seen, heard, and they also feel appreciated. And that's the same when you're on the stage. And that's what we really focused on. I know Derek mentioned about the book, and we added some of these nuggets in there, but for HOST is an acronym that I love. And it stands for hold yourself with confidence, right? You want to make sure you hit that stage with confidence. The O is owning the stage, right? Depending on, you have to, as a speaker, any good speaker knows how to adjust based on the staging, right? Those semifinal stages, the world championship stage is humongous. Your stages in your contest, your area contest, district contest may not be as big, but being able to make your speech adaptable is such a powerful part of presence. The S is you want to share the energy, right? It's not always about being loud and big, but sometimes being quiet and stepping back and being intimate. Those powerful pauses that we all know about. And then the T is to touch hearts, right? Whether it's in, I love Derek's formula that he gives, but you really want people to remember how you made them feel with their speeches. And with that, making sure presence is something big. I'm sure all of you, since you're accomplished speakers, can really appreciate that. But we had a great time. And as Linda said, it was such an amazing thing. And I think that in any type of, and I know you all probably help each other and coach, but it's a great thing because you learn so much yourself. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity. And thank you, Derek. It was such a pleasure to be on this journey with you.
Absolutely. And if I can underscore, and then we'll go to questions, the reason the coach is so important, the coach, the mentor, the evaluations, is a concept I call the speaker's paradox. As a speaker, we don't really think about it. We understand it, but we don't think about it. You'll never experience your speech the way the audience does. You're transmitting, but they're receiving. You can watch a tape back, right? Like we watched that video, but all I'm seeing is the back of the audience, right? I'm not really seeing what was happening on the left side, the right side, in the back, in the front. Well, eyes like Linda and Lisa were saying, hey, that line right there, I saw so many people, perk up when you said that. We need to really dive into that. Or they're studying and they're giving you feedback. Plus, they're looking through your lens because they've gotten to know me and they know what is important and what I'm trying to communicate. So that is one of the reasons it's important to avoid the pitfalls of the speaker's paradox. And with that, I want to allow the floor to go out to our distinguished guests and to the contest mastery team. Any questions, I'm happy to answer. Obviously, Linda and Lisa as well.
Derek, would you like me to watch for hands?
Sure, that'd be great.
So anyone who has a question, by all means, raise your Zoom hand. Or if that's not possible, raise your real hand and I'll try to watch for that. I'm going to jump in at the beginning. I hope this doesn't embarrass you since both of them are in the room. But how did you select your coaches and what did you expect to get from them?
So the key to selecting a coach is knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. And you heard me talk about personal stories. I was very hesitant. I was a private person, extremely private. And even now, when I share a story, I have to be ready to share that story. So Linda has always been a person that has that authenticity. And I've always respected her for that. So that's why I reached out to her. And Lisa, who actually went to the semifinals her first year in Toastmasters. Lisa has a tremendous presence. So that was something I needed. I've been given man, you're a great speaker. You're so polished. You're so good. You're not winning. So I'm like, hey, I got to let that go because everybody's got me buttoned up, but they don't have me winning. So there's something I've got to do to connect more with my audience. And so that was something that definitely was important and why I picked those two people, because I felt I had a good handle on everything else. Thanks for the question.
Looking in the chat, I believe Liz Pollock has a question or maybe a couple. Go ahead, Liz.
And I have issues too, because I have not your story, but other ones, and I hate being vulnerable. And I guess I'm just wondering, it must have been so much work to come up with fake characters, instead of telling your own stuff. And I've been in the NSA and, I've had a medical journey. I've been disinherited. All kinds of stuff have happened. They're like, unless you incorporate this stuff into your stories, you're missing out on power. And I still don't want to do it. I went to a TEDx and I saw all the spaces were taken, and then we went up to watch, and half the people who signed up for speeches, they canceled, and then they told everybody else, write your best 5 minutes. And I went to counseling to figure it out. I decided I still didn't want to talk about it. So I struggle with what you did, except I wasn't willing to go to the work of coming up with fake characters, and I don't have your storytelling chops yet, but I don't know what made you cross over to be willing to take that risk, because once you tell that story, you can't get it back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So a lot to unpack there. The personal stories, they're easier to convey because they're from our lives. They're our experience. And to your point, it's difficult to come up with, stories and fake characters and all of this kind of thing. I just, for some reason, had a knack for that. Maybe some fibbing as a child has contributed to that, but I've always been good at storytelling and making up stories. I would watch things. It's a Beautiful Life, and I would make up my own version. I would watch movies and then make my own version of the movie up with different characters and different subject matter. So I don't know. To your point, I have been very fortunate to be able to create stories. But what I realize is presence. There is no competition that comes close to presence. I can make up all the stories in the world, but having that presence that comes along with being able to deliver your personal stories and standing in your truth is, there's nothing that can compete with that. Now, with that said, I love the fact that you said you're not ready to tell your stories, because I will also say this: the audience is not a punching bag. The audience is not a place where you air out your situations. So if you haven't resolved some of your personal stories and hardships and trauma, as they call it, all of those things, the stage isn't the place for that. You have to be healed and whole, as I talk about in the book, to tell your personal stories. And if you're not there yet, you're not ready to share that.
Thank you, Derek. I see Jewel Fuller has her hand up.
Derek, thanks so much for sharing. The question I have, out of curiosity, and I'm sure you've done this deliberately, what were the two things that you missed doing in the final speech, and what did you learn from this?
So, okay, so the three things that were not present in the finals we talked about. So I will underscore them for the conversation. In my final speech, I allude to victory. I did not call the victory out. I did not underscore it, and I did not sustain it. Big problem, number one. Probably the biggest problem of them all. The second thing is, when you're telling stories, and for whatever reason, I just had two kind of emotionally charged stories. And in the end of the story that I told at the finals, it's about my granddad. And we didn't have a relationship, but through the story, we develop a relationship. And towards the end, 6 minutes, 30 seconds, he dies. And it's a very powerful moment where, you know, I cover him passing away and the overwhelm of that. And then I talk about all the things that led up to it. And it's just this kind of heavy moment at 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And this is where I got the revelation about all the things we're sharing tonight. At 6 minutes and 30 seconds, do you think I can lift an audience up that I have taken that low to finish my speech? Can't do it. You can't do it. You don't have enough time. Granddad need to pass away at 5 minutes. He can't pass away that late. So they were down, they were very heavy, and then my speaking took them a little bit lower. And then I'm trying to pull them up, and I take them to the call to action. Well, how many times have you been able to really digest a call to action when your emotions are all right? You ever been like, calm down, it's going to be okay, but you can't. You're just in such a emotional state. You have to be settled. You have to get yourself back to a place where you can receive and see that victory and take that call to action to heart. The third thing is debatable. And I'm curious what people's thoughts are. We've always been trained that in the first 30 seconds, what do you have to do? You got to make them laugh. You got to get their attention. You got to do some kind of grabber in 30 seconds. Well, in my final speech, there's probably not a laugh until well after a minute. And so grandma passes, and I couldn't find a way to put this kind of thing together. Now that I've thought about it a little bit more, I think I can come up with a way, but that was a third thing that I didn't do. So again, as I was on the stage, finishing up with a minute left, I got a lot of these revelations that, now watch this, Joel, in Forward March, guess what? The answers are there. If I would have just blueprinted against Forward March, I would have caught those things. But you know what I did? And this is probably one of the biggest lessons I'll leave with you tonight. Do not let a good speech get in the way of winning the contest. Do not let the fact that I took that speech for 5 years through multiple iterations, through many evaluations, to many clubs, and they cheered. What an amazing speech. That's it. But it missed some critical elements. And you'll run into that if you're not careful. And that's why this book is so important, so that people have the blueprint to test against. You need something to test your speech against. You can't just watch another speaker because it's a different story, different context, and they may mix it up the way they deliver. So you want to be careful not to just have a good speech, but you want to make sure you have a blueprint for success. Now, another question.
I see Liz has another one in the chat. Liz, do you want to run that one out?
I think Harriet had her hand up first, then I'll go next.
Oh, I didn't see Harriet's hand. Yes, go ahead, Harriet.
Oh, all right. I'll be very quick. I really thank you so much for presenting the formula for winning a speech. A lot of it is very familiar to me, but I really like how you packaged it and you tied it with a bow at the end. So thank you so much for that. It was more like a comment. You have a voice of a radio person. Like when I listen to you, I close my eyes and I listen to you and your message is landing. So I wanted to thank you for that as well. It's nothing to do with presenting, I guess, but your voice is very engaging. But my question was also to Lisa, your coach. How come she's not competing? I'm just curious. Did she just get too comfortable? I'm not sure.
Well, thank you, Harriet. I actually am going to compete again, not this season, but the season after I competed COVID. Well, I actually wanted to finish my DTM, so I did district leadership, and then COVID happened. And then I got involved with other things, and then Derek asked me to coach. So yes, that is definitely on my bucket list. So thank you, and hope to see you on that championship stage in Vancouver, right? That's where we're going to be next year.
Oh, I'll be there because it's in Canada, so I'll just walk over there.
Oh, that's fantastic. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Thank you. I see Barack's red light, but I would like to ask Derek if some others here maybe were a little bashful to ask questions, but they'd love to follow up with you. Is there a way to do that? Maybe.
Absolutely. I'm on Facebook as Derek Lott. You can see my name there. Instagram is a great place to connect with me, Derek. Put my middle initial in there, C, as you see it there. And I'm always posting on Instagram a tip or something there, and you can keep up with things. I think I've got the link posted on Facebook where you can pre-order the book. I really encourage you. What we covered today was just the basics that are in the book. There are 150 plus champion notes in the book. Plus, Linda and Lisa have contributed a chapter where they talk about their coaching and what's critical to assist a world champion in their pursuit.
That's great. And maybe if it's possible, maybe you could even put a link in the chat for us to
sure.
follow
I think I can find that pretty quick. Yep.
Then we'll have it for sure. Thank you again for sharing all of your expertise with us, as well as your two wonderful coaches.